Hi, this is Joseph. In this video, we're going to do an update of all of the trades that we had on Friday, which was August 30th, 2013. And then you'll probably notice that if you were trading on Friday, that there was pretty light volume for the most part towards the end of the day. It was almost like it was kind of like nobody was there. So most of the time that will happen with a major holiday like that. And Monday, September 2nd is actually a national holiday here in the United States. It's a bank holiday, and I generally prefer not to trade during bank holidays, especially a holiday like this one, because it's the last holiday of the summer season here in the United States, and a lot of people either didn't work on Friday or they took off early on Friday, and I didn't really want to get stuck holding on to a lot of positions through the weekend. So I want to sort of walk you through what I do in the chat room, how I start off each day. And right about at the London Open, what I do is a analysis on the charts. I show my screen. We review all of the majors. We review oil, gold, futures markets as well. And I'm basically talking about any potential setups that are occurring at the time that I do the analysis. And then I also talk about what I anticipate moving forward over maybe the next couple of hours or leading into the New York session. And that's how we start off every day in the chat room. And then I'm constantly doing updates, sometimes every 30 minutes, sometimes every 15 minutes, sometimes every hour. Really depends on how active the market is. We cover and we also review the news and how economic data has an impact on the price, and if we have any trade setups at the time, either before or after economic data. And then if it's quiet in the chat room, we also talk about strategies. So I give everybody that's a member in the chat room a complete training course on how to trade all of the techniques that I use and all of the ones that I talk about. And then during the quiet times in the chat room, I provide education and mentoring. So we talk about all of the setups. Anybody has any questions, we talk about those trades. And we also talk about the live trades that I call out live. So what we're looking at right now is the pound dollar 30-minute time frame. And when I was talking about the setup for this, when I was talking about how I would prefer to trade off of a bounce off of support rather than off of resistance, and that's exactly what we got. So keep in mind, this was many hours before it actually occurred, and I was sort of outlining what we would do in case of a couple of different scenarios. So we got a bounce off of support, and in this case it was an HL30 off of the previous day's resistance. And you'll notice with the entry of 1.5486, with the HL30 we're always using a 20 pip target and a 20 pip stop, and if it reaches the first 20 pip target, then we look for an additional 20 pips. Now in this case it only reached the first target and it stopped right at 1.5506. So I got pretty lucky. I mean, that was 20 pips from my entry. It was 20 pips to the target. So I got pretty lucky there. And then it rolled over, obviously, and didn't go any further. And then I want to show you another trade. And this was a trade that we discovered during the Asian session. So what happens is I do a couple of sessions during the Asian session. In other words, sessions in the chat room. So the chat room's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I'm not always in there. I do sleep. I spend time with my family. I have dinner. And that's usually during the Asian session because of the time frame and where I live. But I do check into the chat room, and I always have my charts open 24 hours a day when the markets are open. So I have alerts that will sort of send me either an audio alert with my speakers on my computer, so if I'm in my office I can hear it, but I also have my charts set up so that when an alert is reached or triggered, it will then reach or send me an SMS text message to my cell phone or a tablet, a mobile device. So I'm always aware of the trades, and if there's a signal or a trigger or some kind of alert, even if it's during the Asian session, I will come into the chat room and then we review whatever's going on in during the Asian session and set up any trades. So there was actually an HL30 here on the pound yen. So on the pound yen, this is the 30-minute time frame. You can see where we entered, 1.5243. With the pound yen and the euro yen, those are different targets when we use the HL30. When we use the HL30 on the pound yen and the euro yen, we're using a 40 pip target and a 40 pip stop. And then if price continues after the first target, then we look for an additional 40 pips. With all of the other currencies, it's just a 20 pip target and a 20 pip stop. So in this case, you can see how when we got into the trade during the Asian session, it then reached finally that 1.5193. That was our first 40 pips. Now obviously it didn't reach the second target down there at 151.53, which would have given us an additional 40 pips from the first target. So we only picked up 40 pips on this trade, and then price went sideways and we closed our positions. Now, I discussed with the members in the chat room that I really didn't want to hold on to any open positions during the weekend. I mean, if we got stuck in one, maybe if it was something more manageable or controllable, but I didn't want to have a lot of open positions because of all of this ongoing tension in Syria. And I told everybody at the beginning of the London session that we probably wouldn't get a clear outcome on some kind of decision from the White House as to whether or not they were going to use any military force on Syria. And I felt that it was probably likely that we would see some kind of decision, or either after the market closed on Friday, meaning the U.S. stock market at 4 o'clock, or they would actually wait until the weekend, or possibly even until the following week. So watching it over the weekend, we still see that they're really not too committed. I mean, he says, Obama will say that he's going to take this military strike. He's got to sort of save face because he's already laid it out there once before, sort of daring them to cross a certain line. They did, and now he's got to do something. But at the same time, he also says that he wants Congress to vote on it, so that way, I guess in a way that if they don't vote on it, he's then sort of in that conflict, and he'll act like, maybe he doesn't want to cross, and he's going to, along with the majority support, and then not decide to. Maybe that's his way out of it, is what I'm getting at. So we also knew that we weren't really going to be taking too many trades in the oil market as well, because we also watch oil and we watch gold. So I wanted everybody to sort of be aware of what we were going to be doing as far as any expected moves in oil. So on this trade, pound yen, we only earned 40 pips. Now I want to show you another trade that we took. We took a small trade on the dollar yen. Now the dollar yen, this was a 30-minute time frame. This was more of a T2 pattern. It's an advanced candle pattern off of support. So what we do is we find a level of support. Here's Thursday's low and Thursday's high, and that was actually the high up there for the week. And then we obviously use our Fibonacci retracement tool, and we look for a support level. Now this is also right around that 98.00 psychological level, right through there. Remember, support and resistance aren't always exact numbers. Sometimes they're a pocket or a range of support and resistance, and in this case it was more or less a range of support right around the 50, and then it spikes towards the 618, but it's also right around that psychological level. And we had to wait a couple of candles longer to get that real reversal and the strength here in the CCI indicator. And here we had an entry of 98.07. We only took 20 pips on this trade. 20 pips on a small trade like this inside of a little tiny range like this, that's something that we repeat all of the time, 20 pips. So here it reached that 20 pip target. So here on this trade, on the dollar yen, we earned 20 pips. Now I wanted to show you another trade. Okay, now what we're looking at is the euro yen. This is the 1 hour time frame. And at the beginning of the session, in the chat room, when I did my analysis and I was showing the members in the chat room my charts, we were talking about this possible scenario. We were talking about price potentially moving down to support, which it had not done yet at that time. But I was anticipating that we probably wouldn't really see a continuation signal candle to the downside and then trade more to the downside. What we would probably see is a bounce off of this support level. Taking into consideration Friday, the market was almost closed. It was also leading into a major holiday. So we really wanted to be careful with this one. And what we traded here was a Tech 1 trade. A Tech 1 trade is a reversal candle pattern. This was also a 20 pip target. So we got in at 129.92 and we closed at 130.12. And of course, if it does reach the first target, we also look for a second target. But in this one, we were hoping that maybe it might stretch out a little bit further if it was going to continue to rally. So we were looking for the possibility of 130.50, but again, that one didn't happen. So we only earned 20 pips on this trade here. Now here's another trade that reached completion on Friday. On Thursday, you'll probably remember that we traded this continuation trade here on the euro dollar. The continuation trade, again, is a breakout of consolidation and then a continuation of the move in the direction of the breakout. In other words, a trending market for the day or two. Each time it's going to last a different length of time. But this is the continuation trade. So on Thursday, we entered and took first profits here, but our final target was 1.3200. And you'll notice that later on Friday, during the New York session, it hit our final target here of 1.32.00. This resulted in an additional 25 pips for us on this trade. Now I want to show you two other trades, because occasionally I do experience some losses, so I want to share with you my losses as well and show you how we recover from these. Now during the trading session on Friday, we did spot a possible HL30 an HL30 here on the 30-minute time frame for the euro dollar. So we got into this trade at 132.40 and we expected a 20 pip target of 132.60, but that didn't happen. It didn't reach it. And here was my stop. And in this case, we lost 25 pips on this trade. So it wasn't a big loss. So you can see with all the other trades, we made 40 on the pound yen, another 20 on the pound dollar, 20 on the euro yen, 20 on the dollar yen, and then an additional 20 on the euro dollar when it finally reached that final target. But there was a second trade that did more or less the same thing. Here is the dollar Canadian 30-minute time frame, and you can see the previous day's resistance, and you can see that HL30 pattern setting up here. So we had an entry of 1.0534. We use a 20 pip stop and a 20 pip target. Our first target was down here at 1.0514. Well, you can see how choppy it was here with the dollar Canadian. So it really wasn't going to work on Friday. But we did get stopped out. So we lost 20 pips here. But you can see later on in the New York session, it eventually came right back down and then hit our target. This stopped us out by 2 pips, which was unfortunate. So we only had 2 losses. And for the entire month of August, we only experienced a total of 4 losses for the entire month. But we earned 710 pips this week. And we did not trade on Monday because Monday was a bank holiday in the UK. So we had an extremely profitable week, 710 pips with only 2 losses. So if you'd like to participate and join the chat room with us and earn pips just like this, imagine 710 pips. In the last 30 days, we've earned over 4,000 pips. And you can do the same as soon as you join our chat room. I also include a bonus trading course that I call the Real Deal Traders course. And it's valued at $395 and it's yours to keep. Again, I provide full mentoring and live trade calls inside of the chat room. So go ahead and click the purchase button, join the chat room, you'll get instant access to it, and I look forward to trading with you.